Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Next Gen Conservative Media post-debate show. I'm Sam Whitfield here with Jeff Hamill,
Hi.
and we are here tonight. It is September 16th, 2015, at about 11:15 p.m. and the second GOP primary debate has just ended. Jeff, I'm going to let you have the first word. Your initial thoughts.
So I listened to part of the the Jindal. Um, who else is there? Lindsey Graham. I listened to that debate, like the losers, like the people who are obviously not going to win. They didn't have. They're like under. I think they're considered the under 12 major, and I think it's like the 0% voting people who are voting for it. And Rick Santorum was in that list, which I liked a lot because Rick Santorum is an asshole. Um, and will not win the next presidency as a Republican. But with this debate, number one, it was less organized, much less organized. It was horrible in terms of organization because they didn't really ask any questions that were, for the right use of my language, they didn't ask questions at the very beginning about anything important. They asked questions about Trump the entire time. Well, Trump this, Trump that. What do you think about Trump's opinion on this? I'm like, I'm not here just for Trump. I'm here to hear everyone's opinion. And obviously, you're not asking these questions. It was Trump said this. What do you think? And I'm like, I didn't know this was the Trump debate. And I was worried that was going to be its entirety was what Trump, this is what Trump said. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I'm just like, God, I hope this isn't the Trump debate again, which it was last time. And it wasn't. I think Trump is actually kind of poor on this debate, and I liked it because I don't like Trump. I think Fiorina,
Fiorina, I think is how you pronounce her name, but I'm not
sure.
positive on that.
I think she did the best. And the reason I say that is because all of her answers were spot on, minus her response to HP. I think that it was over practiced. I think that she was just kind of reading bullet points out, like when she was talking about it. I think the behavior from Donald Trump at the very beginning, going back to Trump, was childish. Going after Rand Paul for no reason at the very beginning, I was like, "What the heck is that about?" Just different things like that. I think Carly won. Marco Rubio actually did a heck of a lot better than I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to do very bad, but no, he did. I think he did really good. Carson didn't show up. He sounded tired every time he talked. He's like, "So I am a doctor." Mike Huckabee wasn't really there. Chris Christie was kind of a child, again tagging Rubio. He did say some things that I liked, and I'm not going to say he's a total idiot the entire time, but there were some things that I liked that he said, but there were also a lot of things that he said that I thought were stupid.
Yeah, we'll talk about this a little later, but I was actually surprised. I think I tweeted this to you and Michael Hausum during the debate, but I was actually surprised because while I'm not a Chris Christie fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say that there were a couple times where I found myself nodding in agreement with him completely, on some things, and I was kind of like, wow, this is kind of a first. I think so. Donald Trump for me has been a very interesting candidate because when he first joined the race, I was a Trump fan,
Oh my God.
and well, I'll explain why. He worked in the private industry. He's had a very successful empire. Yes, he's a little bit of an egomaniac, but the fact that he was
A little bit.
well, yeah, well, keep in mind, I'm going back to like these were my thoughts at the time. I was like, yes, he's a little bit of an egomaniac, but he's not letting the media machine get him down. He's kind of, giving the proverbial finger to political
Exactly.
correctness, which I always like. And I think I wish more candidates would do that. But in a more polite way. So I mean, I liked him for the reason a lot of other people liked him. The Megyn Kelly comment didn't really bother me that much, to be quite honest, because I kind of felt like her question was kind of going after him a little bit. With that being said, it kind of seemed like afterwards he just started going after everyone for no apparent reason.
Right.
And my thing was, in fact, I even got into a little bit of a debate into a little bit of a debate
You
where
were in a
Matt
little bit of a date. Aw,
no of a yeah,
mess with you.
yes, Jeff, Matt and I Matt,
Oh, it was Matt and you. Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna
Matt,
take his girlfriend.
Matt Dallas, and yes, we went on a date debate or something.
Awesome.
But anyway, Matt Dallas and I were actually kind of arguing about this because my whole falling out with Trump was actually about 2 weeks ago or so when he was on Hugh Hewitt's radio show, and Hugh Hewitt asked him a question about um how we would deal with the Middle East and some of these terrorist groups. And Hugh asked the question of, do you know the difference between ISIS um and Hezbollah? Do you know who the do you know who the terrorist leaders are? And Donald Trump kind of snapped at him and was kind of like, well, what does that have to do with anything? And you're
Everything.
wasting my time with gotcha questions.
Right.
And I kind of felt like his attitude was, you know, was snarky. Matt kind of surprisingly defended Trump and said that those questions were a little off point, which granted they may have been, but the thing about Hugh Hewitt that a lot of people don't understand is he's one of these people that will ask questions and he wants this is just kind of from talking to him in person. He wants people, as far as I can tell, to actually say, I don't really know how to do this. I'm going to have to look this up. He wants candidates to admit that they have flaws, and Trump didn't do that. But then where I realized my fervor was when he called Hewitt and like some other guy a third rate journalist or something like that. Like it wasn't just the Megyn Kelly thing. It was just he basically insults everyone, and that was kind of like, yeah, you're not presidential. I think there's a difference
Right.
between being. I think there's a difference between saying "f you" to political correctness and being an asshole.
Yeah, I think that was the distinguishing difference. That was what distinguished him from everyone else. Was there's a fine line which I like to pole over, and he liked to really go over. Is the fact that there's a very clear distinguishing line between political correctness and being an asshole. And I think he definitely went over that line more than one time, especially at the very beginning of tonight. I think he jumped over that line and thought, oh shit, this is exactly what happened last time. I better stop, because he was an asshole. And I think that this time he did not. I don't think he fared very well during the debate. I really don't. I think that he. Um, I think especially for how many questions they asked that had him involved. I think it was actually kind of bogus to how little he was actually a part of the debate in the end. Especially at the beginning of both debates, the first like 6 questions from both debates were, well, Trump said this, what do you say to that? And I'm just like, who cares what Trump said when there are so many other, and then in the second debate they called it out. I think it was Jeb Bush or John Kasich who said, I thought we were here to debate politics and issues, not what freaking Donald Trump said last time or since then. Like, I thought this was a presidential debate, not a, oh, what do you think about Donald Trump debate? And I thought that was a very fine, distinguished line between the debate. According to Bandwidth Reach, which is a Twitter beat at BW_reach, Guy Benson retweeted it. Carly Fear, I can't say it now that I'm on air.
Carly
Fiorina.
Yeah, we'll just call her Carly from now on.
Okay, Carly takes the win with 71.8% positive sentiment on Twitter. I believe is Twitter. Ben Carson with about 45%. Chris Christie actually surprisingly with over 55%. Donald Trump with a little over 40%. John Kasich surprisingly 40%. Jeb, I'm reading this wrong. Donald Trump 42%. Jeb Bush at 40%. John Kasich at almost 60%. Marco Rubio almost at 70%. Mike Huckabee 50%. Rand Paul 35%. Scott Walker 55%. Ted Cruz 58%, give or take. I'm just roughly estimating these. And then the next retweet I have on my timeline is actually a retweet by Mr. Rusty Humphreys. Say no to Carly. She said, America is indebted to Islamic civilization whose gifts are very much part of heritage. And then they have 3 bullet points: laid off 30,000 workers, outsourced U.S. jobs to China. How can one think that a failed CEO can be a successful president? And then it says, she is another Islamic sympathizer. I disagree with that highly. 30,000, we already know that number. 30,000, it was more to do than just her. She even talked about it on the debate tonight. And she's like, yeah, the person who fired me just talked about me and said, I made a mistake, and she was actually the one who was right. So I thought that was interesting.
So wait, Humphreys came out made a tweet.
He retweeted somebody's picture.
Oh, coming out against Carly.
Yes, very much so. I don't know who he's in favor of. Let me go ahead and tweet him.
Well, here's the thing that I think really kind of here's the thing that strikes me, because I've heard that statistic about Carly before, and that's one that a lot of conservatives, with the whole thing with Islam, that's something that a lot of conservatives like to say, to kind of use against her. And to me, that's kind of a moot point in terms of the fact that she's not talking about radical Muslims by any stretch of the imagination. And also, I think that's an old quote too. So, I mean, maybe she's changed her opinions on that. But here, the one thing that's bothered me about this whole thing with Trump, and I'm not saying it's necessarily his fault. I'm not really defending Trump, but I will say this. Ever since Trump's gotten into the race, it's been what does Donald Trump think about this? And I get, because he's a celebrity, and I mean I get that the media, that people don't really like him, but at the same time, people spend so much time on him that they've kind of brought it on themselves.
I think it's because it's it's still the apprentice factor. I think he's still maybe not after today's debate, but he was still like this huge political and social person that it was hard not to talk about him during the debates and then after the debates, et cetera, et cetera. I think it was just because of his ability to bring in viewers that they all the news media, they went right to what is Donald Trump thinking. And now, hopefully after this debate, people care less because I think he's plummeting in most polls. According to Outset Magazine, that's the only poll I've seen that he's actually winning. OutsetMagazine.com, our friend Stephen Perkins, his website. He has a poll, Donald Trump with 22 votes and Carly Fiorina at 16. Those are the two biggest. Next is Marco Rubio, which I would agree it should be Fiorina, Marco Rubio. I didn't like Chris Christie. John Kasich did a shit job tonight. I think he could have done much better. Scott Walker, Ben Carson, Mike Huckabee doesn't even have a single vote. Scott Walker and Mike Huckabee are the two that don't have a single vote. Rand Paul kind of blew it tonight. Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush also kind of blew it tonight. I would say,
which is a real shame because minus Huckabee and Jeb and okay, Kasich didn't do that great, but still, I like all of those guys. I'm not even that big of a Rand fan, and
he had a really strong opinion. Sorry to interrupt you, but he had a really strong opinion on the 10th Amendment, and I really like that, especially when it came to the marijuana issue. And if we can move the conversation to that discussion, I hated the fact. Now, Carly Fiorina had a great thing where she talked about her son, I believe his son, who ended up dying because of substance abuse and drug abuse, and that's awful. And a parent should never have to go through that. But the thing is, they were comparing marijuana users, potheads, if you will, to heroin addicts and coke addicts, and there's a huge difference, scientifically huge difference between smoking marijuana every single day of your life, every single day, pounds of it every single day, which no one does, to putting a needle in your arm. There's a huge difference. There is a huge, and Chris Christie saying, well, I mean, it's hindering their work. It's hindering this. And I'm like, no, it's not. If they're smoking on the job, they should be fired because they're doing an illegal, not an illegal, they're doing a substance enhancement or a disenhancement substance while at work. Agreed. But to say that it is a huge issue, like heroin or any type of hard drug, it's a gateway drug. I heard. I was like, are we still in the 1990s when we're saying it's a gateway drug? Or are we still in the early 2000s? Early 2010s? Like, I thought we were so much further. We could actually distinguish the difference, but no, they're still talking about that. And then Rand Paul had the perfect response with, it's the 10th Amendment. And it was actually your home state, Colorado. You could smoke pot there for recreational, right? I think.
Yeah. Now I have some comments about the marijuana laws, but go ahead. Go ahead. I want to hear your thing first because I have a very mixed view on that.
I kind of do too because I'm not super in favor of pot. I think that I don't think people need to smoke pot. That's my thing. You don't need to do it. If you want to get into an enhanced state or a messed up state or a different state than the state that you're in, you can do that through ways that are natural. My sociology professor talks about how he smoked pot, and that's how he started asking questions about why do we do this in society? And now he can do it on his own by himself. Doesn't need pot. Pot is just the candy of drugs. You don't have to take it unless if it's for a medical reason, of which doctors prescribe it to you. And if a doctor prescribes you drugs, go for it. doctors prescribe me drugs all the time. Well, not all the time, but I have a couple of drugs where I have to take every day or twice a day, some. And a doctor has said you should take this in this amount and you should be good. So with Chris Christie saying, well, if I'm elected president, people should really start lighting up now, because pretty soon Colorado will be it'll be illegal again, because he will put in the federal government, which the Republicans and the conservatives are supposed to be anti-government, but you'll use the federal government for that? Why? I think we should get the government the hell out of everything. Let the state decide. 10th Amendment. Rand Paul was exactly right. 10th Amendment. No federal business with it.
I see, and see, here's where I come down on the on the marijuana thing, because now granted, and pardon the pun in advance, but I'm getting secondhand, quote unquote, information about the results of marijuana from like my dad and some old friends, you know, that are still living in Colorado. Apparently, so here's kind of what I've gathered. So people are now generally thinking, even the governor in Colorado, Governor Hickenlooper, he basically said that how did he put it? He didn't. Well, he said that legalizing marijuana was a mistake. Not so much but he also said that it wasn't a mistake that they legalized it in general. But he also said that they didn't regulate it properly when they legalized it. So it's kind of like they basically did, the best way I can put it, and I know this is kind of a bad example, but bear with me. They kind of did what they did with Obama, what the federal government did with Obamacare, where they signed, Colorado signed the marijuana law. This is kind of what I heard. They signed the marijuana bill into law, and then they figured out kind of how to do it, you know, rather than the reverse. And so Colorado, as a result, has had some, you know, problems with, like, you know, underage kids, you know, getting their hands on it. They've still had some trouble with, like, the gangs and whatnot. Now it has reduced a little bit, but they still have problems. And what I'm saying is, I think if we were to, I agree with Rand Paul. I agree with Rand Paul that we should, you know, decriminalize drugs like marijuana. But I think going forward, we should use the mistakes and the hiccups from Colorado. We should use Colorado as kind of a guideline.
Exactly.
You know, to kind of learn from the mistakes that we made.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, exactly what you're saying. It's a case study. We can say, what did Colorado do good? What did they do bad? How can the rest of the country improve on what they've done? I think the problem that Colorado made was they didn't exactly look at how the Netherlands decided to implement it. And I think we can learn a lot from the Netherlands with their reduced drug use and with their reduced STD and HIV and pregnancy among sex workers. Whole other issue, but I think that
well, that's an issue we'll get to maybe here in a little bit, because that's one.
But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think there were some mistakes that were made, and I think that if a future state wants to implement the legalization of marijuana, no matter if it's recreational or for medical or for both, the thing that I have to ask you, is it the federal government's job to step in, no matter what the state is and how it was run? Is it the federal government's right to say, yeah, you have to do this?
Mm, well, here's kind of where I'd like to see the federal government. You know, the federal government, as I'm concerned, as far as drug laws go, should kind of be, and I'll regulate this for alcohol and tobacco too. They shouldn't regulate anything. Well, they should regulate it only in the sense that like they give guidelines. And like I I well, because regulation has like a connotation of control. And I know that's what everyone thinks of, but like I think I think that the easiest thing for like drugs like marijuana would be to say, hey, here's a case study that we've formed. Here's kind of guidelines that the federal government thinks, okay, not mandates, but thinks that you should abide by. You don't have to do it this way, but these are the suggestions that we've kind of, put out there, and so, you're welcome to use them.
So guidelines, not laws.
Essentially.
Okay.
Now, I also think, that like I'm not saying that this would ever happen, but for whatever reason, like because one of the whole arguments is that like against, against like legalizing like hard drugs like crack and whatnot. And I'm not saying I'm that libertarian, but like
I'm not that libertarian, okay?
people are saying.
Oh, I understand. I'm a libertarian. I completely understand what you're saying. And I'm not one of those libertarians either.
Well, people are saying that like I'm not for regulation, but at some point too, I'm also going to like, okay, well, what if it does mess up? At what point does the federal government need to step in at a national level? And that's kind of what I'm, that's kind of the question I'm getting at with the 10th Amendment. So,
right, I'm totally in favor of the 10th Amendment. For and it's going to make me sound like a hypocrite, for everything but basic human rights. That's why we have the Bill of Rights going to every single state. And of course, I'm going to same-sex marriage, because a lot of people would say, well, if you agree with the 10th Amendment, then why don't you agree with same-sex marriage being a state's right or not right? Because it's a basic human right. Which they brought up Mike Huckabee. Like the only thing I remember from Mike Huckabee was he talked about Kim Davis.
oh
And,
God,
yeah.
God, can okay? So I haven't written a column about this yet or done a podcast, but can I just say that when they brought up Kim Davis, I was actually pissed off because my whole thing is Kim Davis is not an actual victim, and I mean. Yeah, they probably shouldn't have thrown her in jail. I think that was a bit extreme, maybe. But if you want to talk about Christian persecution, go over to the Middle East where like actual Christians are being killed. That's what pisses me off about this whole Kim Davis thing, is that Huckabee is like saying, oh well, she's being persecuted and there's a war on Christianity, and I'm over here saying, yeah, Mike, you're right that there is a war on Christianity.
This is the wrong country.
But it's the wrong country, and see, like there is a war on Christianity, I believe, Jeff, but like there's a literal war where like people are dying. And yeah, I know that that's taking a bit literal, but when people use stuff like that, like, like I take that stuff literal, and the fact that Mike Huckabee isn't, to me as a Christian, that's a little insulting. It's like saying, it's like if I was, maybe this is a bad example, but like if I were, a bagel company, I'm just going to play off stereotypes. If I were a bagel company and like, if I were a Jewish bagel company and people stopped buying my bagels, I could say, oh, well, there's one Jewish people, when in reality there was the Holocaust, and that was like an actual war on Jewish people. I know it's kind of silly, but do you kind of get my point?
I get what you're saying. It's not there's no war on Christianity. God, please shut the fuck up about it.
Yep.
Like, it's done with. It's Christians are not getting their rights taken away because other people are able to have their rights. People who are of no matter what the issue is, if you want to have freedom, you have to have it on both sides. And it's a basic human right to be able to be with the person who you want to be with for the rest of your life. And Kim Davis is nowhere to stand there because she's been married, 4 fucking times? I can't deal with it. I can't deal with the fact that a woman is saying, I don't like your sin, but my sin's okay. I can marry I don't know why I'm doing the George W. Bush accent, but I can marry whoever I want, but you can't. Because she's not a lesbian. So she's looking at a particular sin and saying, your sin is bad in my eyes. My sin's okay in mine. I can go ahead and have 2 illegitimate children with the man I'm married to, who I'll end up marrying later, and then making my second husband adopt them, while my third husband is the one who I had the children with while I was married to my first one, and then I got remarried to my first husband, or something along those lines. Well, right. I don't understand. That was before she was a Christian. Now that she's a Christian, it doesn't matter when you become a Christian, because if you want to talk about Christianity and what the hell it actually matters, if you believe in Christianity and you believe in the teachings of Jesus, it doesn't matter what you do in your past before Christ or after Christ, because it doesn't fucking matter.
It's not
because it's all about Christ and Christ saying, I've given you the freedom to do what you wish, and there is no consequence because of what I've done for you. You can't do shit. That means you can't take it away and you can't earn it. I've done it for you. That's the point. Christianity is not under attack in America. It's not. It's Islam is under attack in America. Islam, which, by the way, in my course, which I know, big liberal course, whatever, we're talking to people in the Middle East about their culture and religion, and going on and talking about the differences. And what I've determined was conservative Christians and conservative Muslims believe the same thing with a different Messiah.
Yeah.
In essence, they believe the same thing. Women should be covered. Different types of covering. Agreed. Women should be in the kitchen. That's a conservative Christian thing. No, I'm telling you it is, because it's as conservative as you can make it. The conservatives, what they're doing now, especially the most conservatives of conservatives, they're pushing under the rug and saying, well, we're saying that women could be in the kitchen, but if they want to not be, they don't have to be. Ever since the 1950s, that's changed. Before the 1950s, that was totally the conservative and liberal ideas. So it's just a change of evolutionary being. Christians have been here for 2,000 years. Muslims have been here for what, a little over 1,500? They have a lot less time to evolve. It's the same fight, just with different words. That's all it is.
I would agree on the Christian conservative. I always get weirded out when that term Christian conservative gets thrown around, because it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm a Christian and I'm a pretty, I'm as far right wing as you can go without being. See, it's a dilemma, because I am like a conservative Christian, but I'm not a conservative Christian, if you get what I mean. I mean, like, I'm a conservative and I'm a Christian, but I separate the two. I separate.
Exactly. Them. And that's here's an idea. Separation of church and state.
I don't know. Jeez, my Italian heritage is really coming out tonight. I'm using like my hands.
You're using your hands. It's the gay in me. It's the Italian in you. It's
yeah. Hands. if Stephanie Conway were here, we'd all be using our hands. So,
Oh
um,
God,
um,
could that be taken sexually? I don't like where that was going.
well, you're the openly gay guy, so God
I
knows.
know that's the thing that bothered me. It was like I'm the one who shouldn't be thinking that, but it made me think it. Damn it!
Yeah.
Let's just say I'd be using my hands like this. I don't know what Sam would be using his for. If
No,
Conway,
but
if Stephanie Conway is listening, we love you and support you and everything that you do. And go Turning Point USA. Woo!
both my hands are in camera view, so I'm not doing anything. But anyway, getting back to the debate, I thought it was very interesting. Here's where I think Trump lost a lot of people. Here's where like my mom really she kind of went through what I went through. She liked Trump, and then she lost, you know, he lost her support when he lost her support when he called Carly ugly. Um, and then I believe it was would you like to say anything, to Carly. And when he quote unquote apologized, and said that Carly was, a beautiful woman, my mom said, "Too little, too late, Donald." And I think that's kind of when a lot of people, like, I don't know why, but like, when he said that, like, I felt this shift kind of in the atmosphere, like. I don't know how to explain it. But I just kind of unconsciously felt this shift, like, boom, there goes half his supporters or something like that.
I think he lost a lot of support from a bunch of people. Like again, the only I'm refreshing it right now. The only poll I've seen is the Outset magazine one,
Where he's
where
leading.
he's still leading, and he's leading by 10%, 25 to 18 votes. I mean, it's only like 50 something votes, but like Jeb Bush 2, Ted Cruz 2, Rand Paul 5, Rubio 10, Carson 2, Kasich 2, Christie 1. So it's really just the top three: Rubio, Fioriona, and Trump. And I think that the Trump train is leaving. I don't think, especially since Fioriona wasn't even in the major debate last time, and she's beating all but one person who was there last time. And that's speaking volumes to who she is and the place and what she stands for. And I think that it's going to continue to speak volumes when she continues to debate and talk and give her opinion on stuff. I thought it was kind of crappy that she started off her first argument with talking exactly what she said last time, with picking up the phone, talking to Benjamin Netanyahu and talking to the Israeli leaders, and doing this. And she said something about the U.S. military, how it has to be like the biggest and best and most powerful. I'm like, it already is. We're bigger than the next 25 militaries combined. We're massive. We're huge. We're powerful. Everyone knows it, but here's the problem. We don't have a leader to talk about it. And that's what I think she's trying to get to. I think that's why she would probably be the best person without military experience to run, because she wants to Hollywood our military, meaning she wants to make it as big and powerful as it can possibly be, even if it's not.
Okay, now you mentioned the poll on Outset Magazine. I'm looking at the poll for that Breitbart.com has, and I'm voting on that right now. I have let's see. Hold on, it's loading. I'm looking at the results. It's wanting me to enter in. Okay.
I'm going to it as well.
Wow. Okay, Trump is Trump is still leading by 39% on Breitbart.
Really?
Cruz is in second place at 22%. Carson is in third at 16%. Fiorina is in fourth at 5%, which I'm a little surprised by because everyone I've talked to, in including reading tweets from Guy Benson and our friend Rob Lorch on Twitter, I think he said at one point that he thought that Fiorina also won. But she's only at 5% on Breitbart, and Paul is at number 4 on. He's dead last at 4%. So Trump is still leading, but Ted Cruz is gaining on him in the Breitbart primary, which I find to be interesting. So.
Sorry, I'm sending a message. Yeah, that's surprising. I didn't think he did very well. I think he did piss poor. I think he was actually comparative to I wouldn't say Mike Huckabee. He did awful. So did Scott Walker. I think he was. I think Donald Trump was maybe compared to Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Ben Carson, and John Kasich. Ben Carson, who was supposed to be the one who took over next, I think did an awful job. I think Outset has, to me, the best response or outcome, because it's kind of how I think that they did minus Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump was probably fourth to me and most impressive.
Well, it's a real shame about Ben Carson because he's been my favorite guy for a long time.
I don't like him.
Anything specific, or
what do you think?
I know the prison.
Yes.
Okay.
For a scientist, a medical doctor, to say something as stupid as that.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt, though.
I can't.
Okay. Well, you can't.
Describe. Tell me, why should I give him the benefit of a doubt for saying something so asinine?
Because he apologized. Also, because the media outlet, I believe it was CNN, the Communist News Network, they did take his words out of context. Anyway, he's a lot more humble than Trump. At least he apologized, though. Trump is the guy in the room. I don't have to apologize for anything. I'm Donald. I mean, if he couldn't get away with this on cable television, I kid you not, Donald Trump would say, I don't have to apologize for anything. I'm Donald fucking Trump. I've literally heard, and that's Trump's internal monologue. And Carson, I mean, what candidate hasn't made a mistake on the campaign trail?
That's true. I will give. Okay, so I'll say all candidates have made a mistake. I will say all that.
Yeah.
I just think that, and I'm saying this to all Republicans, because I think the Republicans lose because of social issues. Because I think the economic ones, and I want to get my dad's opinion sometime about who had the best idea for. I'm trying to think who had the best idea for their economic tax code. I liked Rand Paul. Scrap the entire thing and start from the ground up. Ben Carson, 10% tithing. Doing something like that would make a lot of sense. But I just want to see what a CPA, my dad is a CPA, what he would say about it. A lot of people make mistakes. I think Dr. Carson has a lot on his plate, and I think he could do an amazing job. I think it's just all the Republicans are going to lose because of social issues, because they keep bringing the shit up. They didn't talk about gay rights specifically tonight. They did talk about the persecution of Christians for about 35 seconds, and then they moved on, and I'm thankful for that. But I think they are going to lose the battle if that is one of Mike Huckabee is going to lose the election, and it's in part because of his appearance when Kim Davis was released from the thing. By the way, I want to read a tweet. Let me find it real quick. It was about Kim Davis. I know I shouldn't bring her up. I shouldn't care, but I do. I'm trying to find it. I retweeted and tweeted so freaking much tonight.
Oh, so did I.
It's not even. I was on Twitter the entire debate, just retweet.
Oh, same here. I had like, I kid you not, I had like 10 Twitter accounts set to tweet notifications.
Jesus, was I one of them?
Yeah, but
good.
But I'll reveal a secret to you now. You're always on.
Aww.
Because you and Rob Lorich and Matt Dallas and Stephen Perkins.
Did you see Dallas's tweet about Woman Crush Wednesday?
Yes, and then did you see my tweet back to
I did not see that.
I tweeted something to like, I know it's a tough call, Matt, but I'll take Carly Fiorina for you so you can have Caroline Stout, because I'm that type of friend. Hashtag caring.
Yeah, so I found the tweet. So what pretty much the argument was, they should have given Kim Davis like special accommodations, because we give accommodations to everybody for their religious freedom. At Political Math said they offered Kim Davis her accommodations and she rejected it. It was her own doing. She was the one who said no. Yeah, I know the conservative media is trying to say, well, no, yeah, that's kind of the thing she did.
You know what? No one. I shouldn't say no one, but Larry O'Connor, and who I admire, and Michael Housen both brought this up. Forget the fact that she's a Christian. She's a government worker. Okay, and here's one thing I want to bring up. How conservatives are always complaining, myself included and yourself included, about how government workers, government employees are always, doing things outside their job that they're not supposed to. Conservatives are always complaining about that, rightfully so. And yet, because this government worker is a Christian, we're going to forget that she's a government worker and give her an exemption. It's like, no, she's a government worker. Now, okay, I'll say this. I know that you and I have had some disagreements, but I will say that as far as arguments go, I could buy the fact that the Christian bakery was abused. Like, I could buy the argument from conservatives more than the government worker. The fact that she is a government worker completely invalidates the argument completely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like the whole baker argument. I don't like it.
I know, but it's a private. It's private industry. So what I'm saying is,
it's small pickings to the argument that should be made about people's civil rights to be able to marry whoever the fuck they want.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, and I agree with you, but what I'm saying is, relative to arguments, that one has more validity, in my opinion, than Kim Davis. Yes. I'm not saying that one does, but I'm saying if you're going to pick one, that's the one to pick. And also, Stephen Perkins had great fun at my expense because he changed his picture to on Twitter to a picture of Kim Davis.
Yes, he did.
And I tweeted something at him. Wow. Wow, Stephen. I never knew you could sink this low. I'm crippled, but now you're also making me blind because I'm now forced to stare at your Kim Davis avatar.
Speaking of our friend, he just tweeted, People are saying this is the beginning of the end for Trump. What do they have to back this up? Everything indicates otherwise. I think that the polls are indicating otherwise, which is kind of everything. So in the aspect of measuring, I don't think he's losing. Obviously, he's still winning it on almost what seems now to be every poll. In terms of his content and the debate, that is where I see it differently. I think that is the start of the decline of Donald Trump. I
Yeah,
think it's starting. I don't think it's it's not going to show that necessarily in the polls exactly, because I think a lot of people are still going to turn out for him. I just think in the overall aspect of it, I think it's going to eventually be the downfall, starting with the second debate. The first debate, all him. The second debate, half, I'm going to say. The beginning was all him, and then and then there was a while that I didn't hear anything about him, and it was wonderful, and I enjoyed it. And that's where I am.
Here's what I said last week. In my comment on Freedom Post, which I send you that, or
I think you did. I just haven't read it yet because I'm way too busy.
okay, well, it's fine. Basically what I said was, I think the interview with Hugh Hewitt was the catalyst to the beginning. Basically, I think we're at the beginning of the end now. And I think that interview was kind of like the chain reaction that kind of began the beginning of the end. And I think we're at the beginning of the end now. So it's just now started, and the polls are coming in where he's still ahead. But I think in a few days we're going to see
The start of the decline. Exactly. Agreed.
Yeah. I know, Steven, I know that you want him out right now, but
Give us time. Give us time.
patience, young
I
Padawan,
was just about to say the same thing.
patience. I think a bunch of them need to drop out. I mean, that's what my stepdad was saying. He was saying, regardless of who it is, the fact is we have way too many candidates. And here's where my stepdad falls, and I agree with him. My stepdad likes a lot of them, minus Trump and minus Bush, but he likes the rest of them. He said that he likes so many of them that it's hard to choose, and so he feels like he needs a couple of them to drop out so he can choose. And that's where a lot of Americans are at, I think.
I don't really have anything else to say. Sorry, I'm really distracted and super tired towards the end of this. Like the debate, like just some of it was childish. I just want to say the debate was very childish this time. CNN did not have control over it. I think that the debate in terms of content was okay, but I think in terms of production and in terms of organization was shit. I think that they did an awful job. I think CNN really dropped the ball this time. It was like Sam's talking behind me, and I'm going, excuse me, it's time now to move. It's time to move on now. No, you listen to, and then the candidates would like fire back. I'm like, no, your time is 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds. After the 60 seconds is determined to be over, you finish this sentence and you can and you move on. It was very awful this time. And I think who is the moderator?
Okay, this is another topic that I actually got major retweets on. So it was Jake Tapper.
That's it.
And then Hugh Hewitt, who is kind of an acquaintance of mine, and some other chick from CNN. They were also supposed to be the debate moderators. Now, Hugh Hewitt is a great debate moderator. I've actually seen him moderate a debate in person in Colorado, and he's a great moderator. But at one point, I tweeted out that as much as I like Jake Tapper's show on CNN, and he's the only program on CNN I watch, he hogged the entire debate as far as the moderator, and like the other two really didn't even get to ask questions. I didn't think.
I don't. I think that was by. I think that was because that's what they wanted. I didn't think that they wanted the other people to actually talk very much. I think it was just like, hey, fans of this thing, listen. And I don't think they needed to. I think it was just kind of nice that they were like, hey, Hugh, it's also going to be here and this other chick. But I think he was supposed to be the main moderator, unlike the Fox News debate where it was like three different moderators asking questions interlaced with each other. And I think that was actually the nicest way.
Yeah,
Because I just liked it better. I think the Fox News and Facebook one was much better in a ton of aspects. Especially, I think the CNN, the only thing that CNN had over the Fox News was his location. But I think camera angles were awful. The moderator was awful. Just the organization and the control was all. I just think the whole thing was awful, minus the fact that they had Air Force One behind them.
Yeah, but even Air Force One, I have to tell you that was a little distracting because at one point during the debate, I just wanted to look at Air Force One. Like I wasn't even focused on the candidate. I was kind of like I want to look at Air Force One, and so it was just kind of like there was so much going on in that room, and I'm kind of surprised because CNN for years, as long as I've been alive, they've been like the premier debate,
Yes, that was why it's such a downfall.
And that was kind of surprising because everyone thought that, oh, it's going to be on Fox News, so it's going to be crappy. And then everyone was shocked at how good the Fox debate was. And then the CNN debate, let me put it this way. I wasn't expecting it to be bad at all. But I was shocked at how like bad it was as far as like management. It just felt like way too flashy to me. Way too overdone.
Agreed. Well, hey, I would hate to end this conversation early. My roommate's passing out, and I don't want to keep the lights on very much longer, and then not talk so loud because I have to present in my radio voice or something. So if we can call this show, that'd be awesome. Before we do that, let's refresh. Anything changed? Not really. Now Donald Trump 38% and Furiona 27 on OutsetMagazine.com. Check them out. Who was the top three people tonight in the debate? I will go first since I just thought of the question. Coming in at number 3, that's the hardest one. Number 3 was the hardest one. Jeb Bush, no. Ted Cruz, no. Rand Paul, I'm gonna give Donald Trump, no. Mike Huckabee, no. Rubio, no. Carson, no. Scott Walker, no. And Chris Christie, no. Okay, so I think at number 3 is a tie, Rand Paul and John Kasich. Number 2, Marco Rubio, and number 1, Carly Fiorina. The reason I say a tie is because I like Rand Paul and I like John Kasich, and I think that they both, if they had that better opportunity, would have been able to express themselves better. I think for the most part, Rand Paul was really quiet and silenced this time, comparative to the last one where he talked the entire time. I think John Kasich talked okay. I think it wasn't as much as the last time as well. Marco Rubio stepped it up big time for me. I'm not a big Rubio fan, but I really enjoyed his performance. And then Carly Fiorina, I really liked her performance the last time, and this time she stepped it up big time for me. That's my top 3, Sam.
Okay, here's my top 3, and this is me just kind of as the evening went on. Number 3 is tied as Rubio and Cruz. The reason I'm ranking Cruz at number 3 is because, I'm not really that much of a Cruz fan. I felt like he stayed on track a little bit more than usual, and I really didn't find myself disagreeing with him a whole lot when it came to foreign policy. Marco Rubio, I felt did a much better job. But I felt like we didn't get to hear from him quite as much. Number two would probably be surprisingly Rand Paul and Ben Carson. So I guess the two doctors. And which, by the way, we'll talk about this another time, but if those two were to run a campaign together, two doctors, I'd be for that.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
That would be totally cool. Number one, obviously, I think is Carly Fiorina. She really won me over tonight, and yeah, I think Carly won, no doubt, and I think Donald Trump is probably crying, is probably crying. Although he's probably crying into his big pile of cash that he travels with or something like that. But anyway, so Jeff, thanks for coming on. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug?
New podcast episodes coming soon. I just recorded today. I'm gonna go edit it tomorrow, I hope, and it should be up by Saturday.
Yes.
So,
and
it's exciting because I'm answering a ton of questions about me and religion, because a lot of people have been asking me, Jeff, what's your political or what's your religious opinion now that you're gay? Like, now that I'm gay, okay, well, let's talk about it. Also, Jeff, why aren't you like a super gay? That's also, I think I mentioned why I'm not stereotypically a super gay, or my family says PG, which is a pro gay. I try to answer that question as well. Is my gay accent improving lately?
A little bit,
because I'm trying my hardest.
Please do not improve. I like your voice right where it is. If you become PG, I will slap you. No, not because you're gay, but because I find that voice super.
Super. Is it satisfactory to you that I'm going shopping next weekend for clothes?
Well, if that's the case, now here's the part where someone actually said that I need like a gay fashion consult.
If you're asking me for fashion advice, that's not what I'm useful for. I can help you find a microphone, a very nice microphone that complements your scenery. But
I actually do need a microphone too. But yeah. Well, so you're doing new podcast episodes. I'm doing new podcast episodes. Also, I don't know if you saw the big news. Not quite as big as your big news, but I now officially have a .com in front of my name.
Nice.
And folks, I kind of promoted this earlier, but this week I went out and spent $26, only $26 on a domain name. So if you go to the Sam Whitfield, yes, the samwhitfield.com, you'll be able to find my blog/website, which I really haven't updated yet or done anything, but I'm adding new posts. I'm having a couple of guests coming up on the podcast, which I'm kind of unsure about how to do, because now that I'm doing them via my iPhone, I'm probably going to have to do guest interviews via the Hangout and then import them in somehow, but I'll figure that out, or Jeff can help me.
It looks really nice, I will tell you that. And it has kind of the same look as jeffhamel.wordpress.com, a little different, which I'm also uploading a new blog. I forgot. I'm uploading a new blog soon. I'm excited to, I think I have 3 that I'm writing over the next couple of weeks. So I kind of want to make blogging a thing that I do. Very short, quick blogs with podcasts that relate to them. I think that's the next thing I'm going to try and do.
Yeah,
successfully, like not successfully, but like decently, I guess.
I'm actually writing now more than I'm actually podcasting because it takes up less time, and also I'm actually getting more exposure via Freedom Post, who you can visit at freedompost.us. Shout out.
There you go. So contact me. Podcast coming up at the GHP on Twitter. Tweet us and send a voicemail to 323-135-227.
Mm-hmm. We should get a voicemail line for the CDP or our show.
Yeah, we should. Dude, we should get a show together, just us two again.
Yeah, we totally should. So,
because that was fun. That was fun.
All right, my friends, and well, Jeff, I want to thank you for joining tonight, and folks, I want to thank you for sitting through Jeff and I randomly babbling about the debate. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.